Why is teaching when not to submit important? The church that I went to, the Presbyterian Church of America, for 10 years, and specifically the location in New York City called Redeemer Presbyterian Church, it taught women that they needed to submit to male authority. However, what I find interesting, the institution never taught me when not to submit. Why is that an important thing to teach? Well, if a pastor starts grabbing your ass, are you supposed to submit to that? And this is a serious question because when all of the hashtag Me Too events started coming to the surface in 2017, 18, I went to the leadership at Redeemer and I said, one of the reasons women are silent about this abuse of power, and this is one of the reasons because there are many, one of the reasons is because of the power dynamic and the submission dynamic. She has been indoctrinated, meaning she's lost the ability to have critical thought because of how much this has been pounded into her from a young age, lost the ability to step back and objectively look at the submission dynamic that she's in. And she's lost the ability to see context and when it's not appropriate to submit. And the abusing pastor knows that she's been indoctrinated into this culture of compliance and silence and collective social punishment if she dares to speak up and challenge a male leader. So all these stories coming out, it's like, why didn't she tell anybody? Why would she tell anybody? What would the cost be if she did? So if from the pulpit you're teaching, we don't accommodate pastors abusing women here, and women, you don't submit to that. That's obviously not what submission dynamics are for. If you taught that at the highest levels with all of the men listening and women, but everyone listening and be like, oh crap, the abusers would be like, oh crap, there's a standard here and they're going to uphold the standard. You'd start running out of abusers because there would be a standard that's going to be upheld. So do you have to teach women in the church when not to submit? Yes, because of the context in which that you're giving these imperatives. You're speaking as a mouthpiece of God to her. Is she allowed to question that when you're telling her what the submission dynamic is? Is she allowed to question that? So you're an ordained leader who went to seminary, has a higher degree than her, and you are indicating in every way, and so are all the people around you, that you hold the keys to the kingdom of knowledge of what is good and evil, and you work for God. And then you give a blanket statement, you need to submit to male leadership. And then she's just supposed to be comfortable challenging that, even in a situation like a hashtag Me Too event, like harassment. That was my lived experience at Redeemer. I went through sexual harassment and it was covered up. I went through sexual harassment and emotional abuse and I was told, but you need to forgive. Oh, and you need to follow and submit to your leaders. This was done at the highest level of every pastor there, including the founding pastor. So can you imagine the damage, someone who helped, the damage psychologically that did? This person helped bring me to my new faith, understanding justification by faith alone. And at the same time, I was told no matter how you're being treated, you must submit. That was widely taught. I'd like to hear from one person that the highest levels didn't teach that, because it's in seminary recordings. It's in the classes from city to city. Get all the archived classes out. You can listen to the recordings and hear them yourself. So why am I making this video? When an institution doesn't inform women about when they're not supposed to submit, it is a depriving of their empowerment in the name of God. Jesus died for me and he set me free from sin. That also includes your sin against me if you're intending that for me. So I'm not living in bondage anymore, right? And not just spiritually, physically too. And if there's a Christian who is encouraging me to stay in psychological bondage or sexual bondage, sexual harassment bondage with him in this weird power dynamic of, if you really love God, you're going to submit to your leaders. If I'm not able to stand up against that, you're depriving me of all the benefits of my faith and my baptism and my communion. I've often heard people say, well, I think the issue is they just can't conceive that there are pastors out there that do this. Well, now they don't have that excuse, considering all that's come to light since the pandemic and what's been going on in these churches with abuse. Also, if a guy has the ability to go to seminary and get a degree and then become an ordained leader, and he's not aware of wolves in sheep's clothing that the Bible teaches about, why is he in leadership? That's another thing, is stop making excuses for these leaders. They know these people exist. They just don't want to do their end of the bargain, their end of the job. They want women subjugating themselves to them without them planning on doing their role for the women, which is protecting them, which would mean putting their neck on the line, bearing a cost, maybe in reputation or finances, taking a hit. Ooh, I might get less tithing money because this misogynistic tither kind of likes that we have a situation here at church where we get to bully women. Now, as a pastor, when I stand up against that, he's going to pull the tithing money, and I might have to take a paycheck cut. Yeah, you might. You might get paid less money if you do the right thing. And this happened to me at Redeemer. A pastor said, well, I wanted to take a more egalitarian approach to my new church plant that I'm going to do, but the people that really give money, especially in the PCA or the Presbyterian world, they're complementarian. So I really need to kind of follow the money. And I sat at a lunch with him and I said, you need to do what God asks you to do and trust that he'll bless it. Otherwise, why would you ask anyone to follow you? You're a pastor planning a church based on this idea that I need to make some serious cash flow. You're not taking any risks here, like spiritually speaking, but I'm supposed to bank my safety and my life on the line submitting to you. You see that?